The air in the Majlis was thick with the scent of burning oud and the muted whispers of the city's elite. Golden lanterns cast a deceptive glow across luxurious Persian carpets, illuminating intricate patterns of emerald and sapphire. Zara, however, felt only the chill of isolation despite the palpable grandeur of the Golden Mirage Palace. Her simple thobe, a stark contrast to the rich bishts and embroidered kaftans around her, seemed to cling to her skin, heavy with unspoken sorrows. Her eyes, usually pools of dark fire, were downcast, tracing the delicate floral motifs on her threadbare fabric. A silent tremor ran through her, a reflection of the tumultuous thoughts swirling within her heart. This place, a monument to tradition and power, felt like a cage woven from silk and gold. She yearned for the raw earth beneath her bare feet, the honest wind of Al-Basra against her face, a world far removed from this gilded isolation. The Majlis hummed with a detached elegance, each conversation a quiet conspiracy, each gesture a silent judgment. She was a desert rose, wilting unseen amidst a garden of cultivated orchids. The whispers grew, merging into a dull roar, but none reached her. Her spirit drifted, a lone gazelle in a vast, indifferent desert. A soft hand touched her shoulder, a warmth she had almost forgotten. She looked up, startled, into the kind, knowing eyes of Samira, whose presence was a balm to her troubled soul. Her friend's voice, a gentle melody, cut through the oppressive quiet of the room, a promise of connection. "How could you sit here all alone, my heart?" Khalid's jaw tightened, indignation rippling across his face, casual arrogance stripped away by unexpected defiance. His muscles, used to commanding respect, tensed with a different energy, a furious, almost desperate need to reassert dominance and extinguish the spark of rebellion. The students murmured, phones raised like a constellation of eager eyes, capturing every nuance. The air shifted from amused expectation to breathless anticipation. This was no longer a mere demonstration. It had become a confrontation, the stakes rising with each second. Khalid, vision narrowed by pride, gathered his might, his gaze hardening into a predatory stare, promising swift retribution. He lunged with animalistic intensity, not an illustrative control move, but a powerful, calculated roundhouse kick. Cultivated strength meant to overwhelm and humble. The air seemed to crackle as his leg carved a violent arc, aiming to sweep Samir off his feet and crush the nascent rebellion. It was a strike born of years of training, perfected in exhibitions, meant to end contests decisively. Samir moved not with opposing force, but with the effortless grace of the desert wind. His form, honed in the quiet seclusion of the secret oasis, embodied Tariq's teachings, fluid, adaptable, deceptively strong. Just as Khalid's strike neared, Samir shifted, so subtle, so exquisitely timed, it was almost imperceptible. He didn't merely evade, he flowed around the force, absorbing and redirecting it with a dancer's precision. In a blink, his hand, swift and silent as a serpent, captured Khalid's fully extended leg with unwavering control. The master's momentum became his undoing, trapped and unbalanced. Samir applied a technique passed down through generations, a whispered secret of Tariq's art. A sharp, involuntary gasp escaped Khalid as a momentary paralysis seized his leg, robbing him of balance and composure. His eyes widened with dawning comprehension as the cold marble rushed up to meet him. The impact was heavy, a dull thud echoing through the suddenly silent hall, signaling not just a fall, but a reversal of power. The arrogant master of the Golden Mirage Palace lay sprawled, stunned, on the mat where he had held court, his image shattered like fragile glass. A sacred quiet descended, broken only by quickening breaths. Phones still aloft capturing the improbable sight. Golden light streaming through arched windows cast long shadows, highlighting the shift. Samir stood poised, his simple thobe a stark contrast to Khalid's embroidered garments, his gaze steady, devoid of triumph or malice, yet radiating quiet strength. He had not sought this revelation, but he met it with the pure spirit of a true warrior, honoring a legacy older than any palace or title. The air that had been heavy with presumption now hummed with the revelation of Samir's true self. A resilient desert rose blooming in the heart of a gilded cage. The sudden quiet was more profound than any roar, a vacuum where the master's imperious authority had once resonated. Khalid, disoriented, felt cold marble against his cheek, an unyielding truth. His muscles, moments before brimming with confidence, throbbed with a dull ache that mirrored the wound to his pride. He rose slowly, movements clumsy, a contrast to the effortless grace he had always shown. The golden light, once a stage for his dominance, now dissected him, exposing vulnerability. His eyes, clouded with disbelief, swept the students' faces, once adoring, now etched with shock and dawning realization. Phones still recorded, not a spectacle of skill, but a raw shift in the order. Each flicker returned a shattered image, not the formidable master, but a humbled man. Samir stood like a statue, desert stone calm, gentle yet unyielding. No triumph marred his dark eyes, only a quiet certainty honed in solitude. His simple thobe suddenly held dignity that eclipsed Khalid's opulence. The air of the Golden Mirage Palace, long amplifying Khalid's stature, vibrated with a different energy, a silent testament to unassuming power now blooming in its gilded walls. The master, used to being the sun around which all revolved, felt a chill of eclipse. His cultivated world of status and entitlement had been breached by the raw force of genuine merit. This was no mere sparring defeat. It was the crumbling of an edifice of self-perception. A tremor like fear, foreign to his pampered life, snaked through him. He found his voice with a rasp. What was that? The question was less about technique than the existential tremor it had caused. Samir's gaze met his, steady. A lesson, Master Khalid. One my father taught me. The words, respectfully spoken, carried the weight of generations, a legacy richer than material wealth. Khalid recoiled. The invocation of a father hollowed his claim to lineage. He had prided himself on an unbroken chain of mastery, yet this cleaner invoked a tradition he understood more deeply. The students, once whispering, watched with bated breath, their recordings becoming chronicles of the unexpected. Silence hung heavy, pregnant with unspoken questions and a collective re-evaluation. The essence of martial arts, long a performative display here, had been stripped bare, revealing a truth beyond wealth and status. The desert rose had found its moment to bloom, not with defiance, but with the quiet, undeniable strength of its roots. This encounter exposed the brittle core of Khalid's superiority and sent ripples through the academy's stagnant waters. Whispers would restart, not of gossip or maneuvering, but of this inexplicable figure who moved like water against the master's rigid force. As afternoons softened the golden light, it seemed to bathe Samir in an aura, transforming him in onlookers' eyes from invisible servant to emerging practitioner. Khalid, still dizzy from being truly challenged and overcome, felt his world tremble. His arrogance, a lifelong companion, had become a burden, exposed in the harsh light of a truth he had long denied. The path forward, for master and student, had shifted. He stood, a fallen king on marble, the surrounding silence, a booming testament to his shattered reign, and the quiet dignity of the cleaner, an undeniable new force. Khalid, still dizzy from being truly challenged and overcome, felt his world tremble. His arrogance, a lifelong companion, had become a burden, exposed in the harsh light of a truth he had long denied. The path forward, for master and student, had shifted. He stood, a fallen king on marble, the surrounding silence a booming testament to his shattered reign, and the quiet dignity of the cleaner, an undeniable new force. Khalid's mind reeled, the marble floor beneath him suddenly less a stage for his triumphs, and more a cold, unyielding mirror reflecting his broken pride. His carefully constructed world, built on status and inherited privilege, crumbled with each quickening breath of the silent onlookers. He yearned for the casual admiration, the unspoken deference that had always been his due. Now, only a stark vulnerability remained, exposed for all to see. He had prided himself on his dominance, his unwavering control, but Samir's quiet strength had peeled back the layers of his self-deception, revealing the brittle core beneath. The air, once thick with his authority, now hummed with a different power, a truth he could no longer ignore. He saw not a cleaner, but a challenge, a force that had irrevocably altered the landscape of his existence. A profound shift had occurred. a chasm opening beneath his feet, forcing him to confront the hollowness of his own boasts. The whispers that would inevitably follow would not be of his skill, but of his fall, a stark reminder of the fragile nature of his reign. He was no longer the sun around whom all revolved. A new dawn had broken, and with it, a new light had emerged from the shadows he had so carelessly dismissed. The sting of defeat was not merely physical. It was an ache that permeated his very soul, forcing a brutal re-evaluation of everything he believed to be true. He would never again look at the Golden Mirage Palace, or himself, in the same way. The quiet defiance in Samir's eyes had carved a path forward, not just for the humble cleaner, but for the humbled master as well. Khalid's mind reeled. The marble floor beneath him felt less a stage and more a cold mirror reflecting his broken pride. His carefully built world of status and privilege crumbled with each quickening breath of the silent onlookers. He had yearned for casual admiration and unspoken deference. Now only stark vulnerability remained. He had prided himself on dominance and control, but Samir's quiet strength had peeled back his self-deception to reveal a brittle core. The air, once thick with his authority, hummed now with a different power, a truth he could not ignore. Samir was not a cleaner only. He was a challenge that had altered Khalid's landscape. A chasm opened beneath his feet, forcing him to confront the hollowness of his boasts. The whispers to come would mark his fall, a reminder of the fragile nature of his reign. He was no longer the sun. A new dawn had broken, and light emerged from shadows he had dismissed. The sting of defeat was not merely physical, but an ache through his soul, demanding a brutal re-evaluation of everything he believed. He would never view the Golden Mirage Palace or himself the same. The quiet defiance in Samir's eyes had carved a path forward, for the humble cleaner and for the humbled master. Khalid's jaw tightened as shock gave way to a seething resentment coiled in his gut like a desert viper. Samir, poised and unruffled in the stunned silence, was a searing brand on his ego. How could a cleaner from Al-Basra hold such mastery? The question tore at the fabric of his curated identity. He scanned the students, faces mixed with awe and disbelief, a silent judgment sharper than words. He felt the weight of their devices, each lens a cruel eye capturing his unraveling. The golden light that had once flattered him now seemed complicit, highlighting trembling hands and the pink flush of shame at his neck. This was not merely a loss, but a public dismantling of a persona he had crafted over years. His lineage's teachings, once a point of pride, felt hollow, performances without substance. Yet this quiet youth, of humble origin, invoked a tradition far richer and more profound. A bitter metallic taste filled his mouth. He wanted to lash out and reclaim dominance, but a deeper realization surfaced. Samir had not fought with malice. He had revealed a truth Khalid had long suppressed. His father's hushed words returned. The true bravery lay not in robes or titles, but in the purity of heart and rectitude of actions. Samir's subtle inclination of the head acknowledged the lingering silence, a gesture of strength that spoke volumes. The raw talent radiating from the young man exposed the superficiality of Khalid's achievements. The palace, once his sanctuary, felt like an opulent tomb burying his illusions. He was a fallen king, crownless, contemplating the ruins of his self-perception. The road ahead promised not a swift return to glory, but a daunting journey of introspection and change. The air thrummed with an unspoken force, reshaping the destinies of both master and student. Khalid's jaw tightened as shock gave way to a seething resentment coiled in his gut like a desert viper. Samir, poised and unruffled in the stunned silence, was a searing brand on his ego. How could a cleaner from Al-Basra hold such mastery? The question tore at the fabric of his curated identity. He scanned the students, faces mixed with awe and disbelief, a silent judgment sharper than words. He felt the weight of their devices, each lens a cruel eye capturing his unraveling. The golden light that had once flattered him now seemed complicit, highlighting trembling hands and the pink flush of shame at his neck. This was not merely a loss, but a public dismantling of a persona he had crafted over years. His lineage's teachings, once a point of pride, felt hollow, performances without substance. Yet this quiet youth of humble origin invoked a tradition far richer and more profound. A bitter metallic taste filled his mouth. He wanted to lash out and reclaim dominance, but a deeper realization surfaced. Samir had not fought with malice. He had revealed a truth Khalid had long suppressed. His father's hushed words returned. The true bravery lay not in robes or titles, but in the purity of heart and rectitude of actions. Samir's subtle inclination of the head acknowledged the lingering silence, a gesture of strength that spoke volumes. The raw talent radiating from the young man exposed the superficiality of Khalid's achievements. The palace, once his sanctuary, felt like an opulent tomb burying his illusions. He was a fallen king, crownless, contemplating the ruins of his self-perception. The road ahead promised not a swift return to glory, but a daunting journey of introspection and change. The air thrummed with an unspoken force, reshaping the destinies of both master and student. The revelation of Tariq's legacy, held close within Samir's quiet heart, was about to unfurl with the quiet dignity of a desert bloom, a testament to a strength that transcended the gilded halls and the superficiality of inherited power. It was a legacy of true martial virtue, a deep well of knowledge and discipline passed down through generations, now ready to flow into the barren landscape of Khalid's understanding. The subtle shift in the air, the collective intake of breath from the students, signaled an awakening. They had witnessed not just a physical contest, but a spiritual one, where the ostentatious display of wealth and privilege had been utterly eclipsed by the profound simplicity of genuine merit. Khalid, his face now a canvas of stunned disbelief and grudging respect, knew that his world, once so rigidly defined, had begun to unravel. The intricate patterns on the Persian carpet seemed to blur, losing their luster as a more profound beauty emerged from the unexpected. The quiet dignity of the cleaner, a man he had dismissed, now stood as a beacon of an ancient truth, illuminating the path he had strayed from for so long. The echoes of his own arrogant boasts now seemed hollow, replaced by the resonant silence that affirmed Samir's unwavering spirit. A new chapter was beginning, not just for them, but for the very soul of the Golden Mirage Palace. Samir, however, felt no grand triumph, only a weary ache that settled deep in his bones as he gathered his cleaning supplies, the rhythmic clatter of his cartwheels a stark counterpoint to the buzzing silence of the training hall. The golden light, once illuminating his unexpected victory, now seemed to mock his retreat, casting long, lonely shadows that stretched before him. His mind, usually a calm oasis, churned with a bittersweet mix of vindication and an unsettling vulnerability. The stares of the students, no longer contemptuous, but filled with a new, intense curiosity, felt like a heavy weight pressing down on his shoulders. He longed for the anonymity of his simple thobe, the quiet obscurity of his daily tasks, now shattered by this unforeseen display of his true self. Each step away from the opulent, the Golden Mirage Palace felt like an arduous journey, pulling him back to a reality that suddenly seemed even more starkly defined. The grandeur of the marble halls, the shimmering silks, the intoxicating scent of oud, all of it now served as a painful reminder of the chasm that separated his world from theirs. He boarded the bus for Al-Basra, the familiar rumble of the engine a dull thrum against the lingering echoes of Khalid's shocked gasp. The hour-long ride was a slow descent from the dizzying heights of his revelation back to the humble earth of his neighborhood. Through the dusty window, the retreating golden domes of the palace gradually faded, replaced by the familiar sprawl of narrow alleys and simple, sun-baked homes. A profound melancholy settled over him, the brief flicker of pride extinguished by the overwhelming weight of societal prejudice. The quiet dignity he had shown in the arena now felt like a fragile shield against the relentless tide of judgment and expectation. He was Tariq's son, a warrior of ancient lineage, yet in the eyes of many, he was still just the cleaner, a fleeting anomaly in their gilded world. The bus lurched and swayed, each movement a tangible representation of the divide he constantly navigated. He watched the faces of his fellow passengers, their lives interwoven with the threads of struggle and resilience, a stark contrast to the carefree opulence he had just left behind. The bitter taste of humiliation, though momentarily eclipsed by his triumph, returned with renewed intensity, a constant companion on his journey home. It was a heavy burden, this knowledge of his true strength, in a world that refused to see beyond his station. The setting sun, now a fiery orb dipping below the horizon, painted the sky in hues of crimson and gold, mirroring the tumultuous emotions warring within his heart. He was a desert rose indeed, but one uprooted from its soil, struggling to find its place in an unforgiving landscape, yearning for the comfort of its own humble garden. The journey was not merely physical, it was a profound voyage back into himself, forcing him to confront the dualities of his existence, the hidden warrior and the visible cleaner, forever bound by the unspoken truths of his lineage and the harsh realities of his world. He closed his eyes, seeking refuge in the quiet rhythm of the bus, preparing for the solace of his mother's embrace and the silent sanctuary of the secret oasis. The long road ahead stretched out before him, filled with both the promise of his father's legacy and the daunting challenges of a society resistant to change. He was a paradox, a whisper of power in a world of shouts, and his resolve, forged in the crucible of humility and inherited strength, would be his true guide. The bus finally shuddered to a halt, releasing its passengers into the twilight of Al-Basra. Samir stepped onto uneven pavement, the air thick with spices and dust, a stark contrast to the perfumed opulence he had left. Each step felt heavy, a physical echo of the mental weight he carried. Khalid's laughter, the sneers of students, the cutting remarks about his station. He moved through narrow alleys and humble homes, each a testament to resilience. Yet today they mirrored his weariness. The defiance he'd shown in the palace, that brief triumph, had faded, leaving a dull throb like an exposed wound. He longed for a place where his true self, the warrior of Tariq's lineage, could exist without constant negotiation. He reached his modest home. The wooden door, bleached by sun, opened with a soft creak, and his mother's cooking embraced him, a quiet promise of solace. Hana stood by the earthen stove, her back to him, her modest abaya a silhouette in lamplight. Her hands, gnarled from honest labor, moved with practiced grace. As he closed the door, a mother's intuition alerted her to his sorrow. She turned. Her dark eyes, usually bright with gentle wisdom, clouded with concern. No words were needed. Hana reached out, her hand soft yet firm, cupping his cheek. In that touch, a lifetime of understanding passed between them. He leaned into it, seeking refuge from the cacophony of his thoughts. The warmth of her hand soothed the raw ache in his soul. Her gaze pierced beyond the weary cleaner to the struggling son, to the hidden warrior. "My heart," she said at last, voice a gentle melody. "The dust of the palace still clings to you." Not an accusation, but empathy. She led him to worn cushions by the low table, urging him to sit. He sank down, tension easing under her calm presence. "This work, this cleaning," she continued, soft but resolute, "is not your destiny, my son. It is a path you walk now, but not the path in the stars." She poured warm spiced tea. Its steam rose like a whisper of hope. "Your hands," she took his, turning it over, tracing the calluses, "are meant for more than mop and pail. They are hands of strength, of precision, of a lineage that commands respect." He looked at her and felt a glimmer of pride, a fragile flame rekindled by her faith. "Your father, Tariq," Hana's voice softened with reverence, "saw the warrior in you long before you held a stick. He spoke of fire in your spirit, wisdom in your gaze, even when you were a boy." She squeezed his hand. "The palace, with its gilded walls and blinded people, cannot see the pearl within you. That does not diminish your worth, beloved. You carry a strength, a knowledge passed through generations, richer than any gold." Her words resonated, a deep hum in his chest. The sting of prejudice did not erase his legacy. His mother's belief was a shield against harsh judgment, a beacon through the dark. She looked into his eyes, affection promising support. "Do not let their disdain dim your light, my son. True bravery lives in the heart, in the honor you bear." Her words, threaded with Tariq's wisdom, settled like a warm mantle, chasing the chill of humiliation. He straightened, a quiet resolve blooming. Hana's faith was a force, a living proof of love and heritage. He closed his eyes, not in retreat, but in reflection, letting her words sink deep. The image of his father rose, not as pressure but as a guiding star. His mother's embrace, the scent of home, and ancestral wisdom reminded him of who he was. The whispers of power, once faint, grew stronger, an orchestra of purpose awakening his spirit. The night would teach its lessons. The dawn, he knew, would bring new strength. The last vestiges of dinner, a humble yet nourishing meal shared in the glow of a single oil lamp, had settled. The aroma of lentil stew and warm flatbread lingered, a testament to Hana's enduring love and quiet strength. Samir rose from the worn cushions, his movements carrying a newfound grace, a resolve his mother's words had woven into the frayed edges of his spirit. Weariness that had clung to him like palace dust receded, replaced by a deep hum within his chest, the echoes of purpose stirring from sleep. His eyes, once clouded by public humiliation, now held a steady light, reflecting the ancient wisdom poured into him. He offered Hana a small, knowing smile, a silent promise of the dawn she had spoken of. Her gentle nod was all the permission he needed. He moved through the modest home, each step away from the living area a deliberate passage into another sanctuary. The air grew cooler, richer with the scent of damp earth as he neared the secret oasis, a hidden alcove beneath their dwelling. Not a grand hall of marble and gilt. It was guarded by a plain wooden door, nearly indistinguishable from the mud brick wall, its surface smoothed by countless touches. He gripped the iron handle, the cool metal grounding him. The latch clicked softly, a quiet whisper, and he pushed the door inward, revealing the hush beyond. A rush of still air greeted him, carrying clay and faint incense. He stepped across the threshold and let the door swing shut with a soft thud, sealing him in. The secret oasis was a stark cavern of rough-hewn stone and packed earth, lit by a single brass lantern hung from the low ceiling. Within its unassuming bounds lay a richness deeper than any palace. His gaze swept the familiar scene, each object a relic, a link to the man whose spirit filled the room. In the center, worn prayer mats lay scattered, their patterns faded to muted hues, each fiber steeped in moments of contemplation and discipline. These were the mats on which Tariq had knelt, meditated, poured his heart into the practice of his art. Samir could almost feel the imprint of his father's knees, the phantom warmth of presence lingering, a testament to countless hours of perfecting mind and body. The stillness seemed to echo forgotten lessons, each breath a reminder of the arduous path Tariq had walked, one Samir was destined to follow. Nearby, on an unpolished wooden stand, rested a silver incense burner, its filigree tarnished but dignified. Though cold, it summoned the memory of fragrant smoke rising in silent spirals, carrying prayers upward. His eyes settled on the most poignant treasure, a framed sepia photograph of Tariq hung on the stone wall. Tariq's dark, piercing gaze met his, full of fierce determination and a melancholic wisdom. A subtle smile played on his lips, a hint of the inner fire Samir now recognized in himself, kindled by his mother's faith. Beside the photograph, draped with ceremonial reverence, hung Tariq's brown sash, a symbol of mastery, discipline, and deep knowledge. The softened fabric spoke of hours of rigorous practice, of sweat, battles fought, and lessons learned. Untouched, it stood as a sentinel, preserving the sacred teachings and the essence of the warrior spirit beating within Samir. This inheritance was not gold or land, but an unyielding spirit, a legacy woven from integrity and courage, more precious than any wealth. The quiet dignity of the secret oasis embraced him, a balm to wounds inflicted by the outside world, a place where the whispers of power could bloom into truth. The path ahead, lit by the lantern and his father's memory, felt clearer. Ancestral wisdom had taken root, promising a strength transcending the judgments of a prejudiced world. Here his true journey would begin, fortified by the echoes of a warrior's heart, ready to embrace the dawn. The lantern cast a warm, flickering light, painting long shadows across the rough stone walls of the secret oasis. Samir, bearing his father's legacy and his mother's quiet faith, turned to the sepia photograph. Tariq's eyes, fierce yet kind, met his own across the years. A deep breath filled his chest, carrying the faint scent of oud from the cold incense burner, a fragrant trace of past rituals. He moved with reverence, bare feet soft on the packed earth, each step a link to his heritage. Before his father's image he lowered himself, not in supplication, but in a profound bow, a ritual passed down through time, an unspoken pledge of devotion. His forehead touched the cool earth, a gesture of respect and humility that transcended social barriers and affirmed his bond with Tariq's teachings. In that moment, the outside world, its gilded palaces and prejudiced gazes, faded. Here, in the hidden sanctuary, he was simply Tariq's son, a resilient desert rose drawing sustenance from deep roots. The bow was more than physical. It was a surrender of his weary self, a cleansing of the day's indignities, and a reaffirmation of the warrior spirit polished by adversity. He lingered in the silence, letting it seep into him, absorbing strength and wisdom from his father's stoic image. When he rose, his movements were smooth, imbued with quiet dignity, a grace honed in solitude rather than opulent halls. His mother's words echoed within him, a mantra against the world's judgments, reminding him of true bravery. His gaze fell on the simple cotton thobe he wore, a symbol of daily labor now feeling heavy and restrictive. With deliberate slowness, he shed it, letting it fall to the earth, a metaphor for releasing burdens. The cool air brushed his skin, a whispered freedom. From a peg near Tariq's sash, he took down the white cotton kimono Hana had sewn, each stitch a mother's prayer. The fabric was soft, its simplicity holding a profound grace. He slipped it on and tied the obi with practiced hands. A tangible change settled over him. The flowing material allowed unhindered movement, the disciplined dance of martial practice that moves like water. The unadorned white spoke of purity and purpose, a clean canvas for the future, a reflection of his unblemished spirit. Nearby, Tariq's brown sash seemed to hum with anticipation, a witness to his son's dedication and a link to ancestral wisdom. This was his true uniform, worn not for show, but for the sacred practice that nourished his soul and sharpened his spirit. He moved to the center of the worn prayer mats, poised and ready. The air in the secret oasis thickened with concentrated energy. The lantern light intensified, illuminating his features with an ethereal glow, as if the spirit of the oasis acknowledged his readiness and blessed the endeavor. He closed his eyes briefly, centering, drawing from the wellspring of ancestral wisdom. When they opened, they held the clear light of a warrior's resolve, prepared to begin the solitary training to honor the legacy pulsing through his veins. Outside, the world awaited with clamor and judgment. Within this sanctuary, only the pure art and the echo of Tariq's spirit guided his hand. In the secret oasis, the world outside, with its gilded palaces and prejudiced gazes, faded into distant memory. Here, in this hidden sanctuary, Samir was simply Tariq's son, a resilient desert rose drawing sustenance from deep ancient roots. The bow was more than a physical gesture. It was a surrender of his weary self, a cleansing of the day's indignities, and a powerful reaffirmation of the warrior spirit, now polished by adversity. He lingered in the profound silence, letting it seep into every fiber of his being, absorbing strength and wisdom from his father's stoic image, a silent communion that transcended time and space. When he finally rose, his movements were smooth and fluid, imbued with a quiet dignity, a grace honed in solitude rather than the opulent halls of the Golden Mirage Palace. His mother's words echoed within him, a powerful mantra against the world's harsh judgments, reminding him always of the true bravery that resided not in outward display, but in the unwavering heart. His gaze then fell upon the simple cotton thobe he still wore, a symbol of his daily labor, but now it felt heavy and restrictive, a garment ill-suited for the spirit stirring within. With deliberate slowness, he shed it, letting it fall to the packed earth, a profound metaphor for releasing the burdens and expectations that society had placed upon him. The cool air brushed against his skin, a whispered freedom, a sensation of liberation. From a peg near Tariq's revered sash, he took down the pristine white cotton kimono Hana had sewn for him, each careful stitch a mother's silent prayer, a tangible thread of love and unwavering faith. The fabric was soft against his skin, its very simplicity holding a profound grace, a pure canvas for the journey ahead. He slipped it on, feeling the transformation settle over him like a second skin, and tied the obi with practiced, reverent hands. The flowing material allowed for unhindered movement, anticipating the disciplined dance of martial practice, movements that would flow like water, adaptable and strong. The unadorned white spoke of purity and purpose, a clean canvas for the future, a reflection of his unblemished spirit and his commitment to the path his father had walked. Nearby, Tariq's brown sash seemed to hum with an almost palpable anticipation, a silent witness to his son's dedication and a powerful link to ancestral wisdom that coursed through his veins. This was his true uniform, worn not for show or for the fleeting admiration of others, but for the sacred practice that nourished his soul and sharpened his spirit, a testament to an inner truth. He moved to the very center of the worn prayer mats, his posture poised and ready, a warrior awaiting the call to action. The air in the secret oasis seemed to thicken around him, charged with concentrated energy, a silent acknowledgement of the profound ritual about to unfold. The lantern light intensified, casting a warm, ethereal glow that illuminated his features, as if the very spirit of the oasis acknowledged his readiness and blessed the sacred endeavor. He closed his eyes briefly, drawing a deep breath that filled his lungs, centering himself, drawing from the deep wellspring of ancestral wisdom that permeated this hidden space. When they opened again, they held the clear, unwavering light of a warrior's resolve, prepared to begin the solitary training, to honor the legacy pulsing through his veins with every beat of his heart. Outside, the world awaited with its clamor and judgment. Within this sanctuary, only the pure art and the echo of Tariq's spirit guided his hand, leading him deeper into the mastery that was his birthright. The first movement of the kata began, a slow, deliberate unfolding of grace and power, a silent symphony of ancestral knowledge brought to life. The first movement of the kata began, a slow, deliberate unfolding of grace and power, a silent symphony of ancestral knowledge brought to life. Samir's arms, like desert winds, carved precise arcs through the still air of the secret oasis, each motion a whisper of his father's technique. His legs moved with deceptive lightness, striking with a swift, controlled force that stirred only the dust motes, dancing in the lantern's glow. Here, in this humble sanctuary, free from the scrutinizing gazes and casual cruelty of the Golden Mirage Palace, he found a profound liberation. His simple white kimono, a canvas of pure purpose, billowed gently with each turn, a testament to the unburdened spirit now fully unleashed. He was not merely practicing movements, he was embodying a philosophy, weaving his very being into the fabric of Tariq's legacy. Every punch that cut the air, every kick that snapped with silent authority was a reaffirmation of the strength his mother, Hana, had spoken of, a power rooted not in dominance, but in unwavering discipline and profound respect. The calluses on his hands, once a mark of his cleaning duties, now told a different story, a chronicle of countless hours spent perfecting an art that flowed like water, adaptable and resilient. The world outside might see only a cleaner, a boy from Al-Basra, but within these rough-hewn walls, Samir was a warrior, a master in the making, his spirit blossoming like a resilient desert rose. The faint scent of oud from the cold incense burner seemed to stir, carrying with it the phantom presence of his father, a silent mentor guiding his every move. His breath, steady and deep, mirrored the quiet rhythm of the oasis itself, a harmonious blend of focus and fluidity. He moved from one kata to the next, each sequence a story told through motion, a dialogue between generations. The worn prayer mats beneath his feet held the echoes of countless practices, absorbing the sweat and dedication of a lineage devoted to true martial virtue. In this solitude, Samir was not alone. He was surrounded by the whispers of ancient wisdom, by the unwavering faith of his mother, and by the undeniable power of his own unfolding destiny. The hour passed in a timeless trance, each minute deepening his connection to the warrior within. When he finally stood still, the last movement fading into the profound quiet, his body hummed with a vibrant energy, his heart alight with a purpose that transcended the harsh realities of his world. The lantern light, though still, seemed to pulse with the resonance of his unwavering resolve. He knew with a certainty that settled deep in his bones that this secret training was not just about honing his physical skills. It was about fortifying his soul, preparing him for the clamor and judgment that awaited him beyond the hidden door. For in the heart of this humble oasis, he had found his truth, a strength that would guide him through the long road ahead, a beacon of light in an often unforgiving world. He closed his eyes once more, not in weariness, but in silent gratitude, ready for the dawn to break. The night dissolved into the soft, gray promise of morning, carrying the last echoes of Samir's solitary practice. He emerged from the secret oasis, the cool, damp scent of earth clinging to his white kimono, a contrast to the crisp air of the waking home. Hana, already stirring, offered a silent, knowing glance as he shed the training garment and donned his worn thobe. The shift was more than clothing. It was the move from the warrior within to the cleaner without, a duality he navigated with practiced composure. Yet this morning a new stillness resonated in him, a quiet strength forged in the crucible of his father's legacy. He moved through Al-Basra's narrow streets, the rumble of buses and distant vendors, a comforting symphony after the silence of training. The rising sun painted mud brick homes in soft gold and rose, inviting the day's labors. At the Golden Mirage Palace, its facade shimmering in early light, he pushed his cleaning cart through polished marble corridors. Once oppressive, the palace now felt like a backdrop to his resolve. He intended to move with invisible efficiency, to avoid the casual cruelty and judging eyes that shadowed him. Inside, his internal landscape remained a battlefield. Each swipe of cloth, each methodical push of the cart, carried the focused discipline he'd learned in the hidden oasis. He aimed to be a ghost, a silent presence, gaze lowered, movements economical. The distant hum from reception, usually background noise, took on a sharper edge, pricking the edges of his tranquility. He tried to lose himself in the broom's rhythm, but a warrior's instinct tugged at him. Murmurs swelled into distinct voices, young, privileged, steeped in casual arrogance. Their words held the sting of societal disdain. A familiar name, Basim, rose with a self-assured superiority that grated on Samir. The delicate balance he had cultivated began to fracture. The sanctuary of the night felt distant, threatened by the palace's realities. He straightened, palm resting on a polished table, senses attuned to the conversation unfolding. He braced for the barbs and veiled insults that sought to define and diminish him. No longer merely a cleaner at the periphery, he was a silent participant in a web of words. The marble floor, usually cool beneath his calloused feet, seemed to burn as he awaited the inevitable. Dawn, which had promised renewal, brought the uncomfortable light of renewed prejudice. He knew he could not escape their judgment, nor the difficult path before him, one demanding not just skill, but an unwavering spirit. The palace had become an arena where status and birthright tested his core. His fingers tightened on the cart handle, a silent anchor against forces intent on shaking his foundation. The conversation continued, each word another stone in the wall of expectation, but this time a different resolve hardened within him. He was Tariq's son, and his spirit would not be easily broken. Samir's grip tightened on the cart handle, the metallic coolness a stark contrast to the burning indignity within. Each dismissive word from Basim and his companions, echoing the casual prejudices of their gilded world, chipped at his carefully constructed composure. Yet, a resilience, ancient and unyielding, began to bloom within him. He was Tariq's son. His spirit, tempered by generations of quiet strength, would not be easily broken. The students' whispers, once a dull background hum, sharpened into a cacophony of entitlement, revealing the chasm between their lives and his. He straightened, gaze lowered, but an inner fire, long banked, stirred, fueled by his father's teachings and his mother's unwavering faith. In the grand antechamber, Khalid's face contorted with barely contained fury. His eyes, usually gleaming with self-satisfaction, now darted across students' phones, each social media comment a fresh insult, a venomous whisper from the outside world. Common folk, Basim had sneered earlier, sentiments that pierced Khalid's inflated pride. The idea that his revered lineage could be questioned by anonymous voices from Al-Basra was an unbearable affront. It was a direct assault on his identity, a challenge to the authority he wielded. He paced, his heavy bisht rustling, the oud acrid, mirroring the bitterness in his heart. His reputation felt fragile, attacked by shadows. Hands clenched, he longed to silence the unseen critics, to reassert the dominance he believed was his birthright, to crush this nascent rebellion.
They speak of street fighters, Khalid spat, voice low and dangerous, drawing immediate attention. These commoners, these shadows, who dare question the sacred art honed within these hallowed walls. His chest swelled with a desperate need to reclaim his shattered image. Let any street fighter from their wretched alleys step into this hall, and I swear by the sands of the desert, I would humble them in mere seconds. Their crude brawling against true discipline.
It would be a brutal slaughter, a definitive demonstration of the insurmountable gulf between their meager struggles and my unparalleled skill. He gestured expansively, his arrogance painting a theatrical picture of triumph. He needed a tangible challenge to restore his diminished glory. His blazing eyes swept the marble, stopping abruptly on Samir, near a pillar, almost invisible, his cleaning cart a silent sentinel. A sardonic twist formed on Khalid's lips. The cleaner, embodiment of the common folk, an insidious thought took root. Well, if it isn't our silent observer." Khalid's voice cut through the air, sharp, laden with mockery. "Perhaps even you, cleaner, believe I only pit my skills against the privileged? That my victories are hollow, gained only against those who respect the rules, who share my status?" His gaze bore into Samir, a challenge more insidious than a physical blow. "Do you too believe I cannot face a true challenge from the dust of the streets? That my strength is only relevant within these gilded walls?" The question hung heavy, a rhetorical gauntlet thrown at Samir's feet, at the heart of his unspoken heritage. Students turned phones towards the cleaner, faces alight with cruel anticipation. The silence that followed was thick, electric, a palpable prelude to a storm, ready to break over the palace and expose its hidden truths. Khalid's challenging question hung in the air, a venomous thread weaving through the stunned silence. Students, captivated by the drama, held their phones aloft, their gazes shifting between the furious master and the seemingly impassive cleaner. Samir, his own heart a tempest beneath his simple thobe, felt the weight of every expectant eye, every whispered judgment. He longed to retreat, to vanish back into the comforting anonymity of his duties, but Khalid's words had struck too deep, echoing the countless slights and dismissals he had endured. His father's face, etched in the sepia photograph, flashed in his mind, a silent reminder of a legacy he could not betray. He was Tariq's son, and a warrior's spirit, long dormant, now flared within him, fueled by the memory of his mother's unwavering faith and the quiet solitude of the secret oasis. A tremor, subtle yet profound, ran through Samir. He met Khalid's gaze, not with defiance, but with a serene resolve that seemed to ripple across the training hall. The opulent setting, usually so intimidating, now felt like a mere stage for a truth far grander than gilded walls and inherited power. The whispers from the students intensified, a rising tide of anticipation as they sensed a shift, an unspoken challenge in Samir's unwavering eyes. This was more than a mere sparring match. It was a confrontation of worlds, a battle for dignity and the very soul of martial virtue. He drew a deep breath, the scent of oud suddenly mingling with the dust of the marble, a strange symphony of past and present. The path ahead was fraught with peril, but in that moment, standing before the very man who had sought to diminish him, Samir found a strength he had only glimpsed in his solitary practices. He was ready. The challenging question hung in the air, a venomous thread weaving through the stunned silence. Students, captivated by the drama, held their phones aloft, their gazes shifting between the furious master and the seemingly impassive cleaner. Samir, his own heart a tempest beneath his simple thobe, felt the weight of every expectant eye, every whispered judgment. He longed to retreat, to vanish back into the comforting anonymity of his duties, but Khalid's words had struck too deep, echoing the countless slights and dismissals he had endured. His father's face, etched in the sepia photograph, flashed in his mind, a silent reminder of a legacy he could not betray. He was Tariq's son, and a warrior's spirit, long dormant, now flared within him, fueled by the memory of his mother's unwavering faith and the quiet solitude of the secret oasis. A tremor, subtle yet profound, ran through Samir. He met Khalid's gaze, not with defiance, but with a serene resolve that seemed to ripple across the training hall. The opulent setting, usually so intimidating, now felt like a mere stage for a truth far grander than gilded walls and inherited power. The whispers from the students intensified, a rising tide of anticipation as they sensed a shift, an unspoken challenge in Samir's unwavering eyes. This was more than a mere sparring match. It was a confrontation of worlds, a battle for dignity, and the very soul of martial virtue. He drew a deep breath, the scent of oud suddenly mingling with the dust of the marble, a strange symphony of past and present. The path ahead was fraught with peril, but in that moment, standing before the very man who had sought to diminish him, Samir found a strength he had only glimpsed in his solitary practices. He was ready. The grand training hall of the Golden Mirage Palace, usually a space for measured drills and respectful instruction, began to transform. A palpable hum, thick with curiosity and excitement, replaced the familiar rhythm of practice. Over 20 students, their faces alight with a mixture of disbelief and eagerness, pressed in around the central mat, their phones already aloft, each lens a recording eye capturing the unfolding spectacle. They were hungry for drama, for the fall of a lesser man, for the reassertion of the master's undisputed reign. Golden light, streaming through the arched windows, painted the scene with an almost theatrical glow, illuminating the anticipation etched on every face. Khalid, sensing the shift in atmosphere, began his own elaborate preparations. He moved with exaggerated confidence, his finely sculpted physique taut beneath his rich bisht, which he now shed with a flourish, revealing the disciplined lines of his form. Each flex of muscle, each subtle adjustment of his posture, was a calculated display of power, a silent boast of the easy victory he believed was his due. His eyes, once clouded by fury, now gleamed with a predatory certainty, convinced this impromptu duel would be a swift, brutal demonstration of his unchallenged dominance. He was oblivious, utterly blind to the profound strength radiating from the humble cleaner before him, to the true power coiled within Samir, a force honed not in opulent halls, but in the quiet, profound solitude of the secret oasis. The students murmured, their whispers a tide of expectation, as Khalid took his place at the center of the mat, a king on his throne, utterly convinced of his own invincibility. Samir, in his simple thobe, remained a stark, quiet contrast, a silent sentinel of a truth far deeper than appearances, a formidable presence about to be unveiled. The air thrummed with unspoken potential, a prelude to the storm. Khalid made his move, a practiced lunge meant to disarm and control. He expected easy submission, a swift end to this defiance. His eyes, gleaming with certainty, anticipated the flinch, the collapse of the cleaner. Students leaned forward, phones poised to capture Samir's quick defeat. A collective breath swept the hall, a wave of anticipation promising Khalid's triumphant reassertion. The golden light held its breath, spotlighting the clash of worlds, the expected victory of the privileged. Khalid's muscles tensed, ready to execute the flawless technique that would end this foolish challenge. He saw only a cleaner, an anomaly to be corrected, a disturbance in the ordered universe of the Golden Mirage Palace. But Samir moved with unexpected grace, a fluidity that defied Khalid's expectations. He was not merely evading, he was flowing, a desert stream around an unyielding rock. The control move met only air, a phantom dissipating around Samir's subtle shifts. His motions were minimal, economical, yet imbued with quiet power that spoke of deep understanding, a connection to an art older than any palace. Khalid's confidence wavered, surprise widening his eyes. The easy victory receded, supplanted by unsettling uncertainty. He lunged again, harder, but Samir, like water, yielded and redirected momentum, absorbing aggression without resistance. The students, having expected a swift conclusion, exchanged confused glances. Their whispers, once eager, now held bewilderment. The spectacle was not unfolding as planned. The cleaner was not falling. Khalid's attacks, honed over years, met only an elusive presence, a quiet strength with no purchase. The air, thick with potential, hummed with a different energy, not triumph, but a dawning realization. Khalid's brow furrowed as he felt the sting of true challenge. This was not a novice's fumbling. It was the deliberate dance of a master, a silent symphony of ancestral knowledge in Samir's every move. The polished marble, once the stage for Khalid's ease, felt like an unpredictable current beneath his feet. The hum of students transformed into tense silence, each second stretching, pregnant with how the confrontation would unfold. Samir stood still and poised, reflecting the lantern's glow in his dark eyes, a testament to power honed not in opulent halls, but in the solitude of the secret oasis. Khalid felt the chill of uncertainty touch his constructed world, his arrogance frayed at the edges, exposed by the elegance of Samir's evasions. The duel, meant to reassert his reign, became something else, proof of strength that transcended status, a revelation unraveling the palace's gilded illusions. The golden light that had illuminated his certainty now highlighted his bewilderment, casting long shadows of doubt. He tried another faster strike, but Samir flowed around it, a whisper in the wind, leaving Khalid off balance and frustrated. Effort yielding no result chipped away at his composure. Breath quickened, movements lost precision, while Samir remained serene, spirit unburdened by expectation. The contrast was stark. The hidden warrior unveiled himself not with a roar, but with the quiet strength of a desert bloom. The hall's profound silence, punctuated by Khalid's ragged breathing, amplified the unspoken truth. This was not the end of a challenge, but the unexpected beginning of a new era. Samir's eyes, devoid of malice but filled with resolve, met Khalid's, a silent acknowledgement of a shift that altered their intertwined destinies. The scent of oud, once acrid with Khalid's fury, softened, mingling with the earthy fragrance clinging to Samir, a reminder of his origins. The long road ahead stretched out, illuminated by a dawning truth neither master nor student could deny. The students, phones still recording, were no longer mere observers, but witnesses to a transformation, a lesson in humility and genuine merit. The marble floor, once a symbol of Khalid's authority, now pulsed with a different rhythm, the rhythm of a challenge met, a truth revealed. This was just the start. The first movement of the kata began, a slow, deliberate unfolding of ancestral knowledge. Samir's arms, like desert winds, carved precise arcs through the still air of the secret oasis, each motion a whisper of his father's technique. His legs struck with controlled force, stirring only the dust motes in the lantern's glow. Free from the Golden Mirage Palace scrutiny and cruelty, he found liberation. His plain white kimono billowed with each turn, a proof of an unburdened spirit. He was not merely practicing, he embodied a philosophy, weaving himself into Tariq's legacy. Every punch that cut the air, every kick that snapped with authority, reaffirmed the strength Hana had spoken of, a power rooted in discipline and respect. The calluses on his hands, once marks of cleaning duties, now testified to hours perfecting an art that flowed like water, adaptable and resilient. The world outside might see a cleaner from Al-Basra, but within these rough-hewn walls, Samir was a warrior, his spirit blossoming like a desert rose. The faint scent of oud from the cold incense stirred, carrying his father's phantom presence, a silent mentor guiding his moves. His breath, steady and deep, matched the oasis's quiet rhythm, a blend of focus and fluidity. He moved from one kata to the next, each sequence a story told through motion, a dialogue between generations. The worn prayer mats beneath his feet held echoes of countless practices, absorbing sweat and dedication of a lineage devoted to martial virtue. In this solitude, Samir was not alone. He was surrounded by ancient wisdom, his mother's faith, and the power of an unfolding destiny. The hour passed in a timeless trance, each minute deepening his connection to the warrior within. When he finally stood still, the last movement fading into profound quiet, his body hummed with energy, his heart alight with purpose beyond his harsh world. The lantern light seemed to pulse with his resolve. He knew this secret training was not just about skill, but fortifying his soul for the clamor and judgment beyond the hidden door. In this humble oasis he had found his truth, a strength for the long road ahead. He closed his eyes, not in weariness but in silent gratitude, ready for dawn. The fight began. Khalid, expecting a swift victory, lunged with a simple control move. To his shock, Samir moved with unexpected fluid grace, evading his grasp with minimal effort. Khalid's confidence wavered, surprise and concern replacing certainty as his attacks met only air. Frustration prickled his composure. The easy triumph he had pictured dissolved into a perplexing dance. Each evasion contradicted his image of mastery. His features, usually controlled, betrayed disbelief. He had expected a cowering cleaner, not this effortless defiance. The audience, moments before buzzing with cruel anticipation, held a collective breath. their silence more potent than any roar, their phones recording not dominance, but a baffling display of resilience. Khalid's mind, used to submission, grappled with the anomaly. Not the humiliated boy, but a quiet force moving with wisdom beyond his years. He tried again, more aggressive, fueled by irritation, but Samir, like a phantom, shifted. The gilded cage of the palace, once a stage for Khalid's absolute power, felt as though its foundations trembled, shaken by the unassuming grace of a desert rose. The golden light, once his ally, now highlighted the contrast between rigid force and Samir's liquid defense, deepening an unsettling realization. He gritted his teeth. This was no longer a mere demonstration, but an unforeseen challenge to his authority. In that moment, the true warrior within Samir unveiled itself, not with a roar, but with the undeniable language of motion. His gaze met Khalid's, a silent acknowledgement of the shift occurring in the grand training hall. Samir's direct challenge ignited a volatile fury in Khalid. The master's face, contorted, betrayed years of dominance. This insolence from a cleaner, beneath him, demanded reassertion. Students, phones poised, watched the shift from display to retribution. Khalid snarled, shedding his cultivated composure. He would make Samir pay. With a guttural roar, Khalid launched. His right leg, honed by years, snapped up in a wide, terrifying arc. A roundhouse meant to obliterate, to send Samir crashing to the marble. Aggression vibrated. He sought to humble, to remind everyone of his authority. His eyes burned as golden light intensified, casting shadows that mirrored the war within him. He was a king cornered, ferocity absolute. Samir moved with grace. He flowed around Khalid's force, a whisper of motion defying confrontation. As the kick screamed, Samir's body shifted, an imperceptible turn honed in the quiet of the secret oasis. Tariq's lessons, fluidity, intuitive understanding, guided him. His bare feet glided, movements like water, yielding yet unbreakable. Air displaced by the kick swirled, leaving Samir untouched, an unmoving center amid the storm. Khalid's eyes widened. Disbelief cracked his rage. The kick found only empty space, its momentum dissipating, leaving him off balance, exposed. In that fraction of a second, Samir seized the chance. His hand, swift and silent as a desert serpent, darted out, not to block, but to capture. With precision born of talent and practice, he gripped Khalid's ankle, fingers locking with unwavering control. It was a technique whispered through generations, a Tariq secret, turning an opponent's strength against him. Khalid's momentum became his undoing. A sharp gasp escaped as paralysis seized his leg, a cold invasion that robbed him of control. His eyes widened with dawning comprehension as the opulent ceiling spun and the cold marble rushed up. The impact was a dull thud, echoing through the silent hall, signaling more than a fall, a reversal of power. Khalid lay stunned on the mat where he had held court, his image shattered, his authority obliterated. A sacred quiet descended onto the Golden Mirage Palace, broken only by students' quickening breaths and the whir of phones capturing the improbable sight. Golden light through arched windows cast long, accusing shadows, highlighting the shift. Samir stood poised, his simple thobe stark against Khalid's disheveled embroidery, gaze steady and clear, devoid of triumph yet radiating quiet strength. He had not sought this public revelation, but he met it with the spirit of a true warrior, honoring a legacy older than any palace. The air, once heavy with Khalid's presumption, now hummed with Samir's truth. A resilient desert rose blooming inside a gilded cage, roots at last recognized, strength undeniable. The whispers to follow would no longer praise Khalid's reign, but the quiet cleaner, Tariq's son, who with a single fluid motion had toppled an empire of illusion. The road ahead, for master and student, stretched into an altered future. The afternoon's golden light softened, painting the end of one era and the dawning of another. The grand training hall of the Golden Mirage Palace, usually measured and reverent, shifted. Curiosity and excitement replaced practiced rhythm. Over 20 students pressed around the central mat, phones aloft, each lens hungry for spectacle. Golden light streamed through arched windows, painting anticipation on every face. Khalid, sensing the change, prepared with exaggerated confidence. He shed his rich bisht with a flourish, revealing disciplined lines beneath. Each flex, each posture, was a calculated display of power, a silent boast of the easy victory he expected. His eyes gleamed with predatory certainty, unaware of the true strength coiled within Samir, the humble cleaner. Samir, in a simple thobe, was a quiet contrast, a sentinel of truths, born in the solitude of the secret oasis. The air thrummed with unspoken potential. Khalid lunged, a practiced move meant to disarm. He expected submission. Students leaned forward, ready to record his triumph. But Samir moved with unexpected grace. He did not merely evade, he flowed, a desert stream around rock. Khalid's control met air, a phantom around Samir's subtle shifts. Minimal, economical motions carried quiet power, an ancestral understanding older than the palace. Surprise widened Khalid's eyes as the easy victory dissolved into unsettling doubt. Whispers turned to bewilderment. The spectacle unraveled. The cleaner did not fall. Khalid's attacks, honed for years, met only an elusive presence. The polished marble beneath his feet felt unreliable. The hall's hum shrank to tense silence. Samir stood poised, dark eyes reflecting the lantern glow, a testament to power honed outside opulent halls. Khalid's arrogance frayed, his reign threatened by an elegance he could not read. The duel became a revelation, strength transcending status, a lesson unraveling gilded illusion. He tried a faster strike. Samir flowed around it, like water, a whisper in wind, leaving Khalid off balance. Effort without result chipped at his composure. Breath quickened, movements lost precision, while Samir remained serene, unburdened by expectation. The hidden warrior revealed himself not with a roar, but with the quiet strength of a desert bloom. The hall's silence, punctuated by Khalid's ragged breathing, amplified the unspoken truth. This was the unexpected start of a new era. Samir's steady gaze met Khalid's, devoid of malice but full of resolve. The scent of oud, once acrid with Khalid's fury, softened, mingling with the earthy fragrance clinging to Samir, a reminder of his origins. Students, phones still recording, were witnesses now to transformation, to a lesson in humility and merit. The marble pulsed with a different rhythm, a challenge met, a truth revealed. Rage ignited in Khalid. Anticipation shifted to fear as the master snarled, shedding cultivated composure. With a guttural roar, he launched a devastating roundhouse, a wide arc meant to obliterate. His ferocity intensified, the golden light amplifying the war within him. Samir moved like water. As the kick screamed past, he shifted, an imperceptible turn honed by Tariq's lessons in the secret oasis. Bare feet glided, yielding yet unbreakable. Air displaced by the kick left Samir untouched. The kick found only empty space. Its momentum turned against Khalid. In a fraction of a second, Samir's hand, swift and silent, captured Khalid's ankle with precise control. A Tariq secret that used strength against itself. A sharp gasp, paralysis in Khalid's leg, and then the cold marble rising. The thud echoed through the silent hall. A reversal of power. Khalid lay stunned where he had once held court. His image shattered. Golden light cast accusing shadows. Students' breaths quickened. Phones whirred. Samir stood poised, his simple thobe stark against disheveled embroidery. Gaze steady, devoid of triumph yet radiant with quiet strength. He had not sought this public revelation, but he met it with the spirit of a true warrior, honoring a legacy older than any palace. The air, once heavy with presumption, hummed with Samir's truth. A resilient desert rose blooming inside a gilded cage. The whispers to follow would praise the quiet cleaner, Tariq's son, who with a single fluid motion toppled an empire of illusion. The road ahead for master and student stretched into an altered future. Khalid pushed himself up, clumsy, face a mask of disbelief. The golden light now exposed every flaw in his reign. Students lowered their phones, looking at Samir with awe and dawning respect. The fallen master swallowed hard. His world of status and power had been irrevocably altered. Tariq's legacy, once a forgotten whisper, now resonated through the hall, a testament to true strength and honor.